The cold night of November 20th, 2025 was dark and quiet. Across the fields and forests of Ukraine, something was happening. From 37 secret locations, small objects began to rise into the sky. They were not birds, they were not planes, they were drones, hundreds of them, climbing silently into the darkness. Each one was part of a massive, coordinated plan. This was not just another small raid. This was a new kind of warfare, a precisely engineered storm of technology and intent. The drones formed into groups, their engines making a low hum that was lost in the wind. They were heading east, toward Russia. This operation was the result of months of careful planning. Ukrainian engineers and military strategists had worked in secret. They studied Russian air defense systems with great detail. They found weaknesses, small gaps in the armor of a powerful military. Their plan was not just to attack, but to confuse and overwhelm. They would use numbers, speed, and clever tactics to defeat a much stronger enemy. The drones were their instruments. Each one had a specific job to do in a complex aerial ballet. Tonight, they would test if a swarm of cheap machines could shatter an expensive high-tech air shield. As the drones crossed the border, they moved with an eerie precision. They were not flying in a single simple formation. Instead, they separated into distinct layers, each at a different altitude. This was the core of the strategy. It was a three-dimensional assault designed to present Russian radar operators with an impossible puzzle. The sky over Western Russia would soon be filled with hundreds of moving targets. Some were real threats. Many were just decoys. The challenge for the Russian defenders would be to tell the difference before it was too late. This was a test of machines, but also of the human minds controlling them. The targets for this massive swarm were not random. They were carefully chosen to cripple Russia's military machine. The plan was to hit 4 critical locations. These included the huge Ryazan fuel reserve, the Novochakhtinsk refinery, the Tula missile storage complex, and the Oral Air Defense headquarters. By striking these nodes, Ukraine aimed to disable a significant portion of Russia's military fuel network and command structure. It was an ambitious goal. Success depended on every part of the swarm performing its role perfectly. The world was about to witness a major change in how wars are fought. The Ukrainian drone swarm was not a single, chaotic mass. It was a highly organized, 3-tiered structure. Each layer had a specific purpose, designed to work together to dismantle Russia's defenses piece by piece. The planners in Kiev had created a vertical puzzle, with each level of drones playing a vital role. This layered approach was designed to stretch the enemy's capabilities to their breaking point. It was a symphony of deception, with each drone playing its part. The highest layer flew like traditional aircraft, the middle layer created confusion, and the lowest layer went for the kill. The first layer flew at a high altitude of 3,800 meters. This group was the bait. It consisted of 72 Mugan X drones. These drones were not designed to carry explosives. Instead, they were fitted with special aluminum reflectors. These simple additions made the small drones appear much larger on radar screens. They were meant to mimic the radar signature of bigger, more threatening aircraft, like the Su-25 attack jet. Their job was to attract the attention of Russia's most powerful and expensive long-range air defense systems, such as the S-300 and S-400. They were sacrificial pawns in a grand chess game. Below them, at a medium altitude of 1,400 meters, flew the second and largest layer. This wave consisted of 168 UJ-32 drones. This group was a mix of real attackers and more decoys. Some of the UJ-32 drones carried powerful 22-kilogram warheads, ready to strike their targets. Others carried nothing but ballast. their only purpose to add to the chaos. This mixed wave was designed to engage and exhaust Russia's short to medium-range air defenses, like the Tor M2 and Buk M3 systems. The defenders would have to waste their valuable missiles on these drones, unsure which were harmless and which were deadly. The final layer was the most dangerous. Flying just 40 to 60 meters above the ground were nearly 300 FP9 drones. These were the true strikers. Their extremely low altitude made them almost invisible to many radar systems. They used the curvature of the earth and the ground clutter, trees, hills, and buildings to hide their approach. Their flight paths were carefully programmed to follow valleys and low-lying terrain, keeping them below the sight line of enemy radar. Their mission was to slip through the chaos created by the upper layers and deliver the final devastating blows to the targets. The first wave to reach Russian airspace was the high-altitude decoy group. The 72 Mugan X drones, flying at 3,800 meters, appeared on Russian radar screens as significant threats. Thanks to their aluminum reflectors, each small drone looked like a full-sized fighter jet or bomber. For the operators at the Oral Air Defense Headquarters, it seemed as though a major conventional air attack was underway. The screens lit up with dozens of hostile contacts, all moving at high speed towards strategic zones. The Russian S-300 and S-400 missile systems, designed to shoot down exactly these kinds of targets, were activated. The Russian commanders had to make a quick decision. They could not risk ignoring what looked like a massive aerial assault. The order was given to engage. Massive rockets, each costing millions of dollars, roared into the night sky. They climbed rapidly, their advanced guidance systems locked onto the false radar signatures of the Mugan X drones. On the ground, the operators watched their screens, expecting to see confirmed kills of enemy aircraft. Instead, they saw small explosions high in the atmosphere as the expensive missiles found their targets. Cheap, simple drones designed for this very purpose. This was the first part of the Ukrainian mathematical trap. Each S-400 missile is incredibly valuable. Each Mugan X drone is relatively cheap, costing only around $28,000. For every drone shot down, Russia was spending a fortune. The Ukrainian planners knew that Russia had a limited supply of these advanced missiles. The goal of the high-altitude wave was to force Russia to waste these precious resources on worthless decoys. It was a brilliant act of economic warfare fought in the sky. The drones did their job perfectly, drawing fire and depleting the enemy's most powerful defensive assets. As missile after missile was fired, the high-altitude wave began to thin out. But their sacrifice was not in vain. They had successfully distracted the most dangerous long-range defenses. They created a critical window of opportunity for the next layers of the swarm. While the S-300 and S-400 systems were busy reloading or tracking the high-flying decoys, the mid-altitude wave was already approaching. The sky had been cleared of its most formidable guardians, and the second act of this deadly play was about to begin. The false sky painted by the decoys had done its job. With the long-range defenses occupied, the mid-altitude wave of 168 UJ-32 drones arrived. Flying at 1,400 meters, they now faced Russia's shorter-range air defense systems, such as the mobile Tor M2 and Buk M3 batteries. These systems are designed to protect specific areas and counter threats that get past the outer shield. Suddenly, their radar screens were flooded with a huge number of new targets. It was a defender's nightmare. Too many targets, all moving quickly, all appearing at once. The operators had to decide which to engage first, a task made impossible by the sheer volume of the swarm. This wave was a wicked mix of threat and illusion. Some of the UJ-32 drones carried heavy explosives, making them a real danger. Others were filled with simple ballast, making them nothing more than flying decoys. On a radar screen, they all looked the same. The Russian Tor M2 system, for example, can engage multiple targets, but it has a limited number of missiles ready to fire. A single launcher with 12 missiles, costing around $2.7 million per full reload, could be emptied in minutes trying to stop just a fraction of this wave. The Ukrainian planners had calculated this. They were forcing the defenders into a no-win scenario. The Russian missile batteries opened fire. Rockets streaked into the sky, exploding one after another as they hit the UJ-32 drones. For every real threat they destroyed, they likely wasted several missiles on harmless decoys. The goal was saturation. The Ukrainians sent more drones than the defense systems could possibly handle. The rate of fire was intense, but it could not last. Soon, the missile launchers would be empty and would need to reload. This reloading process takes precious time, creating a gap in the defensive shield. This was exactly what the Ukrainian strategy intended. The mid-altitude wave achieved its purpose perfectly. It absorbed the firepower of the second layer of Russian air defense. It forced the defenders to expend their ammunition at an incredible rate. Even though many drones in this wave were shot down, they succeeded in their primary mission: to create a path for the final, most important part of the attack. While the Tor and Buk systems were frantically trying to reload their empty launchers, the final wave of drones was already screaming toward their targets, flying low and fast, hidden from the distracted eyes of the defense network. While the battle raged at high and medium altitudes, the third and deadliest layer of the swarm executed its mission. Nearly 300 FP9 drones flew just tens of meters above the ground. They were like ghosts, using the terrain itself as a shield. They flew through valleys, skimmed over forests, and followed riverbeds. This tactic, known as terrain masking, kept them below the radar horizon of many Russian systems. The curvature of the Earth hid them from distant radar towers. Ground clutter, like trees and buildings, confused the signals of systems that might have otherwise detected them. They were almost completely invisible. These drones also had a solution for Russia's powerful electronic warfare systems. As they entered areas protected by jammers like the Pol 21 system, their GPS navigation would fail. But the drones were prepared for this. They automatically switched to a different navigation system called TERCOM-2, or Terrain Contour Matching. This clever technology used a preloaded three-dimensional map of the ground below. An onboard sensor would scan the terrain and compare it to the map, allowing the drone to know its exact position without needing a GPS signal. This made them immune to jamming, a critical advantage. As the FP9 drones neared their targets, they faced one final challenge: the advanced 9S19M2 IMER radar, part of the S-400 V4 system. This radar is incredibly sophisticated, but Ukrainian intelligence had discovered a tiny flaw. It has a recalibration blackout period of just 0.47 seconds. It is a tiny gap, but it was enough. The drones were programmed to exploit this. At the precise moment of the blackout, the drones executed a final maneuver. They performed a sharp dive, dropping to an altitude of just 12 meters. In that split second, they vanished from the radar screen, right before impact. In the final moments, the low-flying drones reached their destinations. At the Ryazan fuel reserve, the Novoshakhtinsk refinery, and the Tula missile storage complex, the small but powerful drones slammed into their targets. They hit the fuel tanks, control centers, and munition storage bunkers. A series of massive explosions lit up the night sky across western Russia. The sound of the blasts echoed for miles, a testament to the success of the attack. The whispering death that had flown under the radar had delivered a devastating blow. The careful, multi-layered plan had worked exactly as designed. The Russian air defense network, one of the most advanced in the world, responded with immense force. As soon as the first wave of drones appeared on radar, operators scrambled to their stations. The initial contacts, appearing as large aircraft, triggered the highest level of alert. The response was immediate and by the book. Long-range S-400 missiles were launched to intercept these high-altitude threats. The operators believed they were defending against a conventional attack by enemy jets. They fired volley after volley, confident that their systems were neutralizing the incoming danger. As the battle continued, the situation became more confusing. After the first wave, a second, much larger group of targets appeared at a lower altitude. The Tor M2 and Buk M3 systems, tasked with point defense, were activated. Their crews were confronted with an overwhelming number of contacts. They fired their missiles as fast as the systems would allow, trying to thin out the swarm. In the control rooms, the scene was one of organized chaos. Dozens of operators worked frantically, trying to track, prioritize, and engage the hundreds of targets flooding their screens. They were fighting a war of attrition, and they were losing. The numbers from that night tell a story of a Pyrrhic victory for the defenders. In a critical 22-minute period, Russian air defenses managed to destroy a total of 173 drones. This is an impressive number and shows the technical capability of their systems. However, the swarm had started with 540 drones. This meant that while the Russians were firing a massive and expensive barrage of missiles, 367 drones were still proceeding toward their targets. They had won many individual battles, but were losing the overall war. Their missile stocks were being depleted at an alarming rate against a seemingly endless tide of cheap attackers. The economic cost of this defense was staggering. To destroy 173 drones, many of which were inexpensive decoys, Russia expended hundreds of millions of dollars worth of advanced surface-to-air missiles. In contrast, the total cost of the entire Ukrainian drone swarm was a small fraction of that amount. The Russian military had been forced into a mathematical trap where every defensive action resulted in a significant financial loss. The attack proved that an enemy could be defeated not just by destroying its military assets, but by bankrupting its ability to defend them. The success of the November 20th attack was not due to a single piece of advanced technology. It was the result of a strategy rooted in mathematics and cold, hard data. Ukrainian planners had turned warfare into a complex equation. They had calculated the exact number of drones needed to overwhelm each layer of Russian air defense. They knew the firing rates of the Tor M2 systems. They knew the reloading times for the S-400 launchers. They knew the exact number of missiles each battery held. Their plan was designed to exploit these numbers, to turn Russia's own defensive protocols against them. The economic aspect of the attack was a core part of this mathematical trap. The planners compared the cost of their drones to the cost of the Russian missiles used to shoot them down. A single Mugan X decoy drone, costing less than $30,000, could trick a Russian S-400 system into firing a missile worth over $1 million. This incredible cost imbalance meant that Ukraine could trade cheap assets for expensive ones, effectively bleeding the Russian military's budget with every shot fired. This was economic attrition on a massive scale, a new form of siege warfare conducted in the sky. Timing was another critical variable in the equation. The drones were not launched all at once. They were launched from 37 different sites in carefully timed waves. This ensured they would arrive over Russian airspace in a coordinated sequence. The high-altitude decoys had to arrive first to draw the fire of the long-range systems. The mid-altitude wave had to arrive just as those systems were occupied. Finally, the low-altitude strikers had to pass through when the short-range systems were depleted and reloading. Every phase was timed to the second to create windows of vulnerability in the Russian defense. This attack was a clear demonstration of asymmetric warfare. Ukraine, with a smaller military budget, could not compete with Russia in a traditional conflict of tanks and jets. So, they changed the rules of the game. They used cheap, numerous, and intelligent systems to defeat expensive, complex, and powerful ones. They used information and calculation as their primary weapons. This attack showed that a deep understanding of an enemy's systems and a clever application of mathematics could be more powerful than brute force. It was a victory for the strategist and the engineer. There was a specific moment during the 22-minute engagement when the tide turned decisively. On the radar screens in Russian command centers, the number of incoming targets from the mid-altitude wave began to drop as missiles found their marks. For a brief instant, it might have seemed like the defense was holding. But then, a new reality set in. Reports began flooding in from the Tor M2 and Buk M3 batteries. Ammunition depleted. Launcher empty, commencing reload. Unable to engage. Out of missiles. One by one, the short-range defense nodes went silent. This was the moment the Ukrainian planners had been waiting for. The mid-altitude wave of 168 drones had done its job. It had absorbed the initial volley of fire from the entire second layer of Russia's air defense. The launchers were empty. The reload cycle for a Tor M2 system is not instantaneous. It takes several critical minutes to get a new set of missiles loaded and ready to fire. It was during this engineered gap in coverage that the real attack would land. The shield, which had seemed so strong just moments before, now had gaping holes in it. At that exact moment, the nearly 300 low-altitude FP-9 drones arrived at the perimeter of the target zones. They had flown undetected for hundreds of kilometers. Now, they faced the final, innermost layer of defense. But there was little left to stop them. The primary missile systems were reloading. The remaining point defense guns were overwhelmed by the sheer number of incoming targets from multiple directions at once. The drones were too low, too fast, and too numerous. The defense network, so formidable on paper, had been systematically broken down and was now effectively paralyzed. The result was a devastating success for the attacking swarm. Of the 540 drones launched, 312 managed to get through the depleted defenses and strike their intended targets. That is a success rate of nearly 58% against one of the most heavily defended airspaces on the planet. The explosions at the Ryazan fuel reserve, the Novoshakhtinsk refinery, and other key sites confirmed the breakthrough. Russia's air shield had not just been penetrated, it had been shattered by a carefully calculated storm of cheap, intelligent machines. The night of November 20th marked a profound failure of conventional air defense doctrine. The attack on November 20th, 2025 was more than just a successful military operation. It was a turning point in the history of warfare. For decades, military power was measured by the quality and expense of a few advanced platforms, like fighter jets and missile systems. This event proved that a large quantity of cheap, intelligent, and networked systems could defeat them. The age of the drone swarm had truly begun. This new doctrine challenges the fundamental assumptions that have guided military planning and procurement for generations. The future of conflict will not be defined by the few and expensive, but by the many and the cheap. This new form of warfare puts the strategist, the programmer, and the engineer at the center of the battlefield. The victory was won not by brave pilots in cockpits, but by planners who used mathematics, data analysis, and a deep understanding of enemy systems to design a mathematical trap. They weaponized information itself. Future conflicts will likely see an arms race, not just in hardware, but in software, algorithms, and artificial intelligence. The ability to process information and adapt faster than the enemy will be the key to victory. For military planners around the world, the implications are enormous. Expensive air defense systems that cost billions of dollars can be rendered obsolete by a swarm of drones that costs a fraction of the price. Nations will have to rethink how they defend their airspace and critical infrastructure. The solution may not be more expensive missiles, but new technologies like high-powered lasers, microwave weapons, and defensive drone swarms designed to counter offensive ones. The entire economic model of national defense is now in question. Ultimately, the Ukrainian drone swarm attack demonstrated that the character of war is changing. The barrier to becoming a powerful military actor is lowering. Nations with advanced software engineering and manufacturing capabilities can now project significant power, even if they lack a large traditional army or air force. This event serves as a clear signal that the strategies and technologies that dominated the 20th century are no longer sufficient. The conflict of the future will be faster, more automated, and fought by intelligent swarms. The night Russia's air shield shattered was the first chapter of this new reality.